Hello friends, Ben Ochart here. Thank you for tuning in. And today I have a product review for you. I was sent something by a company called Bedee. Bedee, you can see the box here, Bedee. And it is a something that should make life a little easier for us in the cleaning of our tanks. I'm standing in front of my 210 South and Central American tank because this is the one that I have to do the actual siphoning of the gravel because waste and detritus can get in between the larger pieces of river rock, and whereas the other tanks are sand bottom and the circulation of water suspends waste and it eventually gets taken in by the filter intakes. So I don't really do much vacuuming on the other tanks. I will maybe fan the bottom a little bit just to get some of the waste up floating in the water column, and then it gets taken in by the filters. But this one here, it does need a little bit of vacuuming, and this might be a product that'll make that a lot easier. Let's go ahead and open up this box, see what's inside of it, and then give it an actual test on the aquarium behind me. One of the things I look for in from a company is really how they box their products, and this packaging is actually pretty nice, very simple to open, not very complicated. It's called the Bedee Electric Aquarium Gravel Cleaner. I've seen products like this before. I know that Hygger had one out there for a while, and it would usually get like sort of mixed reviews, but perhaps these folks have something a little bit different. It comes with an easy picture guideline and a simple booklet on how to use it. Comes with a nice hefty intake, and you can see this is actually a little bit wider, a greater diameter than what you would get with something like a Python system. Python, I like Python because like when you go from the tap, it has a slightly wider hose that's easy to work with than other types of siphon systems. But this one seems to be even wider than you'd get with a Python. They do recommend that you assemble all of it and before using, and really have your wits around it. It is a plug-in unit that uses a DC. It uses a DC, a 12 volt DC plug. So you have a motor, this little motor here, and this little motor pumps at 140 gallons an hour. And they're very explicit in several parts of the instructions. They talk a lot about how this motor has to be below the water line before you turn it on, or you're going to have problems. So I mean that makes sense. So here's your DC plug-in, and it looks like they do give you a decent amount of cord. One of my pet peeves, of course, with products is when they give you short cords. So this looks well, this isn't really that long. That's going to be pretty interesting. So I'm going to have an extension cord that runs, that comes up close to the aquarium, because this is what plugs into the motor. Let's go ahead and assemble it. And the first thing they ask you to do is to take this this little filter unit, and it has this little O-ring on it, and get this in place. All right, so that's firmly in place. Now we take the section that has the actual motor, and that goes on here. Looks like another little O-ring. Oh, okay. So this little O-ring here gets jammed down as this fastens down. It screws down. So then that little little O-ring there will seal it so you have so it's watertight. As you can see, it really screws down quite a bit. Okay, so we got this much done, and then we have the section that actually goes into the sand, what looks like a traditional siphon. This unit here that just simply attaches right to the end, and then you have attachments that you can add to it, which I'm going to use. You've got this attachment here which lets you kind of shovel around in the substrate. Now I have in this tank a deep sand substrate that I put on top of it some river rock. I don't want to disturb that sand substrate because, as you know, if you follow my channel, you know that I like to leave that alone so that it grows bacteria, right? So it's sort of like, it's one of my, I consider it to be one of my filter media, a part of my filter media, so I don't want to mess with it. You also have a scraper attachment that you can use. See it here, little scraper that actually takes in, it has an intake on the scraper. So as you scrape, you can go ahead and pull up detritus. So let's compare this to the photographs and see where we're at. So onto this, right directly onto this piece here, you would attach this shoveling end to the siphon, and you can use that. Now if you don't want to use that, you can use a more traditional siphon like this one, and it has a little filter built inside of it, like a little grill, so you're not going to suck rocks and stuff into it. But this is what's going to be turning around, getting into the substrate. And here we attach our hose. Very flexy hose, very easy to work with. Very often I've had hoses where I have to run them under hot water and heat them so that I can get them attached. But this one attaches very easily. So this hose goes into a bucket or goes back into the tank, depending what you want to do. Let's see here. They send you a suction cup that you attach to the hose, and then the hose can be attached to the outside of the aquarium, so it just stays in place and it's not flopping all around. It looks like I've assembled it correctly now. Let's go ahead and try this out in the aquarium, see how it works. I'm kind of curious to see how this is going to suck up detritus electronically. And I hope it's long enough to work in this tank. I think it does have, it does extend out to over 25 inches, so it should work. It should work in my 210 gallon. All right, let's go ahead and test it out. All right, so I've got it all set up here. I was able to bring over an extension cord, so I have lots of cord to work with here. Here's the on-off switch. You have to make sure that there's no air in the in this section here, the actual siphon sand section. There has to be no air in there, it'll not work. And in my case, I'm just running the water through the filter and then back into the tank. So it's not really a water change. It's more a just a little bit of sand vacuuming. So we turn it on, and it purges out the air, but it stays in place because of the suction cup that's over there, so it's not shooting out into the air, and that's a good thing. Then you can work this end here into the substrate and do your I just kind of do it lightly over the surface. Now it's hard to tell with this sort of dark this tinted tubing. It's kind of hard to tell if detritus is actually coming up I'm just sort of assuming it is, but I'm not getting that the personal satisfaction that comes from seeing junk coming up. But I can see some items getting pulled up here at the base level, and then when I move the head away, I don't see that they're there anymore. So I'm assuming they are getting pulled up through the tube and then getting caught in this filter. They're getting caught in this filter right here, which is a sponge filter, which I'll talk more about here in a minute. It seems to be doing an okay job in pulling out detritus. Not sure if you can really even tell what it's pulling up, but I am seeing stuff coming up. It does have a warning in the instructions not to use this for very long periods of time because you can overwork the motor. But I imagine doing one aquarium like this would be okay. Okay, I see some waste there. And as you can see, I've got a little bit of a sand bottom underneath this river rock. And the river rock is what traps the waste. So yeah, I think when I mix it up, I see fish waste and poop and stuff, but then it's gone. So I'm going to assume this thing is working. I would have preferred a clear tubing to give me a more detectable measure of what actually is getting sucked up. This would be a really good thing for, let's say, a touch-up. Let's say there was an area of your tank where, let's say you have a pleco that hangs out in one little area. This would be a great thing maybe to touch up that area where that pleco is leaving a lot of those 20-foot pleco poops that they tend to leave behind. So this would be a great touch-up tool. Let's do a little side-by-side here. Now this is just a standard old Python siphon system. So immediately I can see the one drawback is that it is picking up a lot of sand, but there's a lot of detritus getting picked up right in the area where I was using the, if you just tighten the hose, lets all the sand go back, and then the poop will continue to go up the hose. But yeah, there's a lot of waste there. Okay, let's work one more area with this thing one more time. I do like that it doesn't pick up sand, but it just probably isn't at 140 gallons per hour. I don't know, maybe it's just not picking up. It doesn't have the pressure that a regular standard siphon would have. Okay, so I've done that little section right there, and I'll turn it off, put it off to the side, and now let's do a standard old-fashioned siphoning side by side of that same section. Yeah, I'm picking up a noticeable amount of waste, but not a tremendous amount more. All right, just for the sake of comparison, let's go ahead and use it as a standard siphon system where the water comes out and see if that maybe gives it a little more suction pressure. Seems to be working pretty good. It's definitely moving water. I'm just not seeing a lot of waste come up, and I know there's waste in there, but it's definitely moving water. Okay, so it is sucking up waste. I am seeing it suck up waste. Just not quite as obvious maybe with the other unit because of the tinted tubing. But I am seeing particles get sucked up into it. It definitely doesn't seem to flow as strong as a standard siphon. So inside of this little unit the water passes through is this filter. Little filter, see, they gave you a little sponge filter. And that was catching the detritus So if you want to cycle the water back into your tank, you can. So for that purpose, for those purposes, this is a pretty good little unit, and I can see it did catch a fair amount of waste in there. They do give you a second replacement sponge, so this one ever gets worn out, you can replace it. So that's a good thing. Overall, I would probably give the unit probably 6, maybe 7 out of 10, and make that motor a little stronger. Make that motor a little stronger, and give me some clear tubing, so I can have that satisfaction that fish keepers get when they know that they're removing waste from their aquarium. So we don't. I don't know why you would give us tinted tubing. So give us clear tubing. Perhaps make the actual rubber tube that either goes back in the aquarium or goes down to a bucket. Add about a foot or two to that. I didn't mind the short connection wiring. I mean, once you bring over an extension cord, it doesn't really matter. So you want to make it like an 8 or 9 out of 10. Give me some clear tubing. Give me some longer rubberized tubing and a slightly stronger motor, and then I would be able to justify spending the money. You can see the Amazon page here on how much it cost. That would make it easy for me to justify spending the money and going and picking it up instead of using just traditional siphoning, right? Either through a python to a sink or on bucket birgade. Now there is one feature that does add value to this unit, and it's this. You can place the unit in a bucket and then run the tube up to the tank, and it will empty the bucket. So instead of bringing a bucket of water and having to struggle to get it over the lip of the tank and possibly spill water everywhere, you can actually suck up the water from the bucket and return it to the aquarium, fresh water that way, so you don't have to be on lifting buckets. And for some of you who have tanks that are pretty high, or maybe you have back problems or things like that, lifting buckets can be a real problem. So this might be a big plus and worth it for those kinds of applications. Okay, so thank you, Bedee, for sending that to me, and you're going to get an honest review when you send me those products. That's my rating of it. Check it out on Amazon. I'll put all the links below. Give me your comments below. Let me know what you think. Do you have one like it, or do you have this same unit? Let me know if you've been happy with it, and we all learn from each other. Comment below in the comments, and we'll talk about products, fish, filtration, and everything else on Saturday at the Cichlids and Coffee live stream. Be sure to tune in, and that's at 11 a.m. Central. About an hour of great fish keepers talking about all things related to fish keeping, from water changes to fish profiles to filter media, everything you can think of. All right, see you on Saturday. If you like the video, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell. And if you want to support the channel and future content creation, consider becoming a member of the Garage Gang. A Patreon monthly supporter starts for as little as $3 a month. Thank you, my friends. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.